Hey everyone, and welcome to the weekend stock talk for December 27th. As we close in on the end of the year, we can see that the S&P 500 or SPY on the daily time frame continues to push all-time highs. We made an all-time high today. And what we can see here is it's on a persistent uptrend after 1.5+ years of consolidation. So this is why I said that we have to be very cautious when we're talking about the downside moves, because we've had a long period of consolidation and we have had a breakout. Now, we also have to be very cautious because bears would like to project and have been projecting a very large move as what we had seen last year throughout the year this year. They've been projecting this kind of move here at resistance, and probably throughout this move. And so far, they've been incorrect. Now, we have to acknowledge the fact that the bears will be correct 10% of the time, right? I kind of made the analogy in past few videos how, the bulls will probably be right the most of the time. Let's say 9 out of 10 times. But without 1 out of 10 time, we're going to have a more significant pullback, and a pullback being 5% or a correction being a 10% on this move. So when is that going to happen? Well, right now, we always have to let the candle dictate the patterns and trends, right? We can't guess as to when the market will make that move, but certainly we can see the start of the move at the close of the day, right? If there's a big candle, there's a red candle, or the start of a move, then we can say maybe something else is developing. But without such a move, as what we can see right now, we can see that we're still on a persistent uptrend. There's no reversal at this present time period. Now, there's a lot of talk about overbought conditions. Now, I can tell you that in an uptrend or a very strong uptrend, overbought is a very relative term. Overbought compared to what? So if you're comparing to something like the MACD, you can say that it's elevated. Maybe, right? But we know that in an uptrend, when we look at overbought MACD or RSI, even if an RSI is between like 70 or 80 or even 90, strong uptrends will fluctuate in the upper range of the RSI. So it becomes into the extreme range, it comes down a little bit, it goes back to the extreme range. How does that happen on an uptrend? We establish a series of higher lows and higher highs. So, this is your low, this is your low, here's another low here. And we would just come back down towards the 20 period moving average or the light blue line or the 50 period moving average. So let's take a look at if there's a breakdown on the hourly time frame. Looking at the S&P 500 on the hourly time frame, we can see that we're slightly below the 50 period moving average, but we're still above the 200 and the 150. What if we continue lower a little bit next week? Where are our next support levels that we expect to hold when we're on an uptrend? Here's your 20 period moving average, 317.81. You have another one that corresponds near a gap fill around your 50 period moving average, 312.63. Question: do we have to get down there in an uptrend? No, the answer is obviously no. But should we get there, we expect some of those levels to hold, right? I also want to talk a little bit about this. So I've mentioned in the last video how the S&P 500 actually now has climbed 32%. So if you actually take a look at the link on our website, you can see the AAII Investor Sentiment Survey and also the SPY returns year to date. And when we're looking at this sort of move, we're on track, I believe, to have one of the best years all time in the S&P 500 now. So that's quite incredible already. But if you take a look at this, let me just show you on the weekly time frame how we came back down to test your 200 period moving average on the weekly time frame. So can you see how we came down to the 200 period moving average to the weekly time frame and how we are just now breaking out? Okay, when we're just now breaking out, now you can imagine similar instance here. When we're just now breaking out, it continues to break out. Right, there are some consolidation times. Can you see there's a consolidation period of several weeks? So when you're talking about this and you might be, looking at this, you're like, oh, this breakout is only a 6% move. Well, the problem here is this. When you see the breakout that's 20% above where it initially broke out, then your risk reward is no longer favorable. Now, you can still be on the train and go bullish, but as the market pushes above the area in which it broke out, and when it extends significantly more above that area, that risk increases because the bears are now going to be jumping on board into the train or the boat. And when the bulls and the bears jump onto the boat, then it flips. Hence, we get that correction again. So right now, we're only breaking out so far 6%, which means that, maybe we can get some consolidation, but overall, we expect this to continue higher as we continue on forward. So, okay, just want to wrap that up. Let's talk about the VIX, or actually TVIX, looking at volatility. All right, let's go to the daily time frame for TVIX. So here's what we currently see. We see TVIX making a series of lower highs and lower lows. Okay, nothing has changed on this chart. Yes, we went up 4.3% today, but if you looked at this very closely, I don't see any sign of reversal. I don't see, this is not a sign of reversal. This is more likely to push lower than higher on the daily time frame. So until I can see something more substantial by the VIX or TVIX, we expect this to continue making new lows, with TVIX making a new low 4 days ago. Okay? All right. So, good stuff. Let's take a look at Rizwan's comment. So thank you for making that comment. By the way, I want to flip to the ES, or the S&P 500 futures chart, giving you an idea of where we are right now towards the end of the year. Note that we have 2 more trading days towards the end of the year, and we will see who said that value of 3250, because we are right on it. As a matter of fact, we hit 3254. We came off of it a little bit today, but looks like we're gravitating very close to that level. Let's see. We have some people at 3288 and 3300. We'll see if we can get there in 2 days. But it's certainly possible if we start melting up towards that level. But so far, I think you're pretty close. And then the 3,200 level is also pretty close, I think. So, okay, good stuff. Rizwan, can you break down LUV? Thanks, sure. So here is LUV. Okay, so very interesting chart pattern. Let me take a look back on the weekly. Okay. All right, so Rizwan, you give me a very interesting chart pattern once again. On the weekly, when you look at this chart, what can you see? Something very obvious here in the weekly is you have your lower highs, right? Certainly you have your lower highs set. You have your higher lows set as well. So what is it doing? It's wedging in. All right, so with the wedge, you can see here's your wedging pattern, okay? We had wedges similar here in this technical pattern, and we broke out to the upside. Now you have to look at this and say, okay, what was the upside after we broke out? Well, this upside conservatively was 30%. Okay. Now, should we break out of this long consolidation wedge towards the upside, then you might expect something similar. Okay, and a break towards the upside, a break towards all-time highs. So this is a chart pattern that you have to be continuously monitoring. Okay, let's take a look at the MACD and see if we can see anything from here. Okay, so when we look at the MACD, in this instance here, can you see how the MACD was sloping higher when we're attempting to break out? Okay, so take a look at the situation right now. So far on the weekly MACD, we see the sloping lower. Okay, it's sloping lower. So I don't see a definitive reversal. So for me to be more convinced that this pattern is going to reverse, maybe it's an earnings catalyst, but I would have to see a break or a weekly break over 57.50. I think that would be a great value to look at. And once it does that initial break, then you can see the resolvement of the wedge towards the upside, and that's something to consider going long on after you see something like that. So thank you once again for your comment. Like if you like this video. If you have any comments, feel free to make it down below. I'll see everyone very soon. Have a great weekend.